Hello and welcome to the Fintech Show. This week we're going back to basics and looking at the tenets of customer engagement. Just what do we as consumers expect from our banks in the digital age? Blazing the trail in customer engagement are the Affinion Group, who are helping banks strengthen their relationships with customers. We'll be getting their insights along with that of Metro Bank and ING. So firstly, Doug McKenzie headed to the Affinion's UK headquarters and sat down with Karen Wheeler to speak about the state of the industry in 2018.
What are the current challenges facing the financial institutions?
Well, there are a number of challenges with financial institutions, and I think that's been happening since 2008, and I think there's continual change in the market, and I think that change is actually increasing with pace. But there's things like GDPR, open banking, PSD2, all coming down the tracks, alongside, fintechs entering the market, and then the likes of Amazon and Google. But I think for the traditional bank players, they should see this as an opportunity, because it does give them that ability to use their traditional heritage, their trusted status with customers, to maybe combine forces with the fintechs and companies like ourselves that can provide them innovative solutions and new capabilities.
So with PSD2 in effect, what does that mean for the financial institutions?
I think for the financial institutions, it's just going to basically be a far bigger, more competitive landscape for them. They're really going to have to fight hard to keep their customers, and if they want to do that, they've really got to change the experience and really go beyond just the provision of just a loan, current account or mortgage. Customers are expecting a lot more, and that's sort of thing where Affinion can help, basically, because customers are expecting to have an experience, an emotional connection, and some of the products that we offer in terms of the leisure, entertainment, lifestyle type services are really things that customers are telling us are things they're interested in. And then what we can do is we can use customers' data intelligently, working with the banks. Customers have given permission to share that data with the bank. They're now going to expect the bank to actually use that and provide services to them that they really want, need and are going to use, and that they can really have that emotional connection, which will drive loyalty ultimately.
Next, I visited Metro Bank, the UK's first high street bank in over 150 years, to speak with MD Iain Kirkpatrick, founder Vernon Hill, and of course, Sir Duffy.
Metro Bank was launched after the financial downturn of 2008. There was not a lot of trust for banks. What sort of opportunities did you see there, and what have the opportunities been for Metro Bank off the back of that?
Actually, we started the quest to open Metro in 2008, so it was in the middle of the crash. This is the fifth new bank I've started from scratch. And what we saw in Britain was a closed market run by a cartel of big five banks who take the customer for granted. And we decided to bring over our American model, which is designed about building fans around service and convenience. It's as anti-bank as I know how to make it. And the British customers take it to mean, finally we have a choice.
And do you think that kind of American customer service was one of the key factors of this, or was it kind of a perfect storm of various?
It was a perfect storm of the right model at the right place at the right time. The British customers had lost trust in the big banks, not only with the crash, but before it. The risk was, would the Brits accept this clearly American model? And we decided to build our New York model here and not change it for Britain. The British public has been trained to accept bad service, long queues, and being abused.
Probably some of the challenges that banking has had maybe over the last few weeks. Clearly there's been some difficult issues going on. And I think just this kind of, digitization, which is great, but, is it for everybody? How far should we go? How do you actually use it to add value to customer experiences rather than, just do it because you can? That makes sense?
And I quote your guys at 11FS, there's the digitization, you're taking paper and basically putting it on a computer.
Yeah.
And then there's a digital experience, which is taking it with fresh eyes.
Yeah.
How do you look to really use both those tools to enhance the customer experience?
Well, I think for me, it's about how you can do things that customers want for a starting point. So, we believe that customers want genuine choice in how they interact with us. So, a really good example is our current account online that we launched earlier this year. So it gives the ability for customers not to have to come into location, open an account online, but they can then collect their card in the store. So this kind of marrying the physical and the digital experience is a really good thing for our customers. And what we're finding is lots of customers will open their account online and come into the store and pick the card up. that for me is how you add value through digitization, rather than doing it because it's cheaper for you rather than for the customer's best interest.
At ING's headquarters in Amsterdam, we spoke with CIO Benoit Legrand about the effects of big data and regulation on their customer engagement strategies.
I think we've been sitting on data for 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, right? And we have not maybe as bank used them. And I think many users, retailers, many people are also having a lot of data. The key is just how to use it and just make a difference between what is useful, what is not useful, and how it effectively helps customers in their decision making, right? So if you use data only for your own sake of saying, how can I sell one product better? I think it's certainly fine, but I think if you look at it from the perspective of how can I help the customer managing their finance, being empowered, then I think you come to a different relationship with your customers and building different value. You're again at the service of the customer, and in the long run we believe that the customer experience, the customer will make a difference. The customer experience will be the point where people will choose between different banks and services. You don't want a bank, right? You hate banking, but you need it any moment, right? Your mortgage, buying a shirt in a shop, or whatever you need for your company, you need a bank, or you need banking. And I think if we can help customers doing this, I think we can make a big difference. But the customer experience will be differentiating eventually.
Do you think GDPR is going to highlight those opportunities?
Yeah, it will certainly highlight. I think, though after a couple of years, this will just become the standard, right? This is just the way we process data, full stop. But I think everyone has to have a data policy, a data strategy, right? So it's imposing things on the different companies, and not only in banking, but to everyone. And what I somehow like is that we're having a level playing field, right? And like PSD2, which is only for banks to give data, I think GDPR is just like for everyone who is using data, and I would like also to have the PSD2 also being applied to all data providers, and also sharing the data which they have with anyone who the customer, with the owner of the data, would like to share with.
So we know customers are expecting more from their banks, but what's actually in it for the institutions that deliver? We've spoken a little bit more about solutions as well as the collaboration between banks and fintechs.
Well, for the financial institution that gets customer experience right, I think they'll really gain in terms of loyal customers and customers that will probably buy more from them as well, which means ultimately they'll make more money. But I think customer experience itself is really going to change because of the customer demands. They're looking for an awful lot more in terms of digital solutions. Customers no longer want to be a number in a bank or just a bank account. Ultimately, they want to know that their bank understands them, knows their needs, and basically serves up a solution for them. So I think that's where we'll see it really change, is far more targeted, personalised services.
We always hear headlines about the last branch in town closing down, and branches seem to be closing everywhere. Yet paradoxically, you're opening branches in Bristol, and I saw a branch in Brighton the other day.
So we open Bristol later this year. I mean, we believe that choice, that choice of digital and physical is really important to people. And so, lots of banks are closing lots of branches, but I think it's where you start from. So, they're starting with large numbers of branches. We have a smaller number of stores, so we can choose the sites we go to, whereas they're probably trying to leave some sites they don't want to be in any longer. And if I'm honest as well, it's about the experience you create. If your experience in another bank is basically trying to migrate you onto some form of technology or use a machine, then you probably stop using that bank. And if the numbers reduce, sufficiently, then you close the branch. And it is that ability to come in, to have a great experience, to do what you need to do, and to go home and use your mobile or your tablet or whatever it is that you want to do as well. But choice is the most important thing.
It's time for a change, but the Big Five had the vast majority of the market here. The Brits, the press says the Brits are more inclined to get divorced than they are to switch banks, and of course that's not the case. The Big Five have a peculiar problem. They're very big, they're very broken, their brand is damaged, and their IT systems, I've been quoted as saying they're one step above a quill. They're just incredibly bad. And if you think about a bank, new or old, we're really in a fintech business, we're an IT business. And when you have antique IT, it's almost impossible to fix. You asked me about the fintech providers, and there's lots of new ideas. Most of them, though, I think about as icing with no cake. They've got a good idea on top, but it has to fit into a bank's core system. And if you don't have a modern core system, in the end, nothing works.
So there's a lot of fintech companies out there that are sort of small startups, absolutely no scale, but are able to be very agile and develop new things. How do you look to partner with some of these sort of smaller companies, and what kind of lessons can be learned and then applied directly at ING?
That's a very good question, because I've been there for a couple of years and watching them when the word fintech was not even in the Google search, you know, and we've seen the first phase of, let's say, arrogance from banks saying, well, I think they will all die, you know, we've seen this before, I don't worry. And on the other hand, fintech saying, well, we'll kill you. I think you'll die, dinosaurs. And now we're coming to a second phase where banks say, maybe there is something interesting there by which I could reduce my cost. Man, those guys are not that stupid, right, after all. And we also see fintech saying, well, having an MVP, so a minimum viable product, is easy, but getting a customer is damn complicated and costly, right? So we have 37 million customers, right? So we are operating in 40 countries. So we have 50,000 employees and knowledge. So this is something we can bring. So today we're more in the partnering mode, and we have 140 different partnerships which are operating with fintechs, you know, from small to bigger. We're also taking stake. We have an investment, you know, venture capital fund of 300 million. We're also spending a lot of money in innovation, partnering with them. So we see this more as an opportunity for us to change the culture, learn things differently, embed the way of working of those guys into our operations. So we're transforming ourselves also thanks to the input. But I think they can also learn a lot from us. Right? I think we have experience, you know, we have some tools, we have people who have been doing this. And I think maybe the paradox in all this is that the more you digitize, the more a human story it becomes. And because every single bit, behind every single bit, there is a human being, right? So there's someone deciding how to code things. What I see is that the more we're moving in this digitization, the more important human beings are, and the more crucial they will be, and make the difference between different institutions. The app will not make it, but I think the people behind it.
So it seems like the key to customer engagement really is down to that vast amount of data that banks have on their customers, and if you can utilize that effectively.
We're a specialist in loyalty and reward programs, and they have changed dramatically. And they're no longer just points-based. Customers are really looking for that personalised experience and basically driven by data. So we have sort of data-driven marketing capabilities whereby the rewards and loyalty programs that we run are really based off of customer preferences, what they're actually going to be interested in and what they're going to use on a regular basis. So through the insights that we gain through our platform, we're able to tell that you're going to want a coffee first thing in the morning because that's what you like to do. And we might be able to serve you up maybe a free coffee, but know that later on in the day, you're potentially going to go somewhere else and need another service. So you serve them up offers that they're going to be interested in. You don't want to receive something that basically has nothing to do with your lifestyle, and especially with the banks having so much data about you, they really are, you know, customers are really expecting that that offer you're going to give them is going to be what they're interested in.
The data is owned by the customer. So if he decided to give it to another bank, and I think the bank has to give it, right? But I think I would be tempted to go one step beyond that and say, why wouldn't we do this with all different industries, right? Why would Google, what would Facebook, what would all those guys not also be falling in the same philosophy and logic of saying, oh, this data is available, but I think it's your data, right? So if you want to give this data which you give to Google, to Facebook, or to anyone, I think it would be your choice. So I think would be waiting and actively waiting for a similar opportunity for growth. And I think this would be a better level playing field for the whole industry.
And it would also mean that you'd be able to integrate into every aspect of the customer's lives, from Uber to Nest and sort of smart apps in the home.
But the key is eventually the customer decides, right? If you overload him, if you aggress him, if you give him inappropriate insights, then I think he will walk away. So I think there is also a natural tendency from the customer to eventually be the last filter of what you're allowed to do. So you can gather massive data, but how relevant is this for the customer? How much is this making his life easier? How much is this helping him? How much is this empowering him to be ahead, in his life and his business? It's a tool which we need to give him and helping, supporting, just basically getting back to the service industry, right? This is what we are, banking is service industry, so we should be at the service of our customers.
So can you tell us of an example where you've used a customer's data to effectively help them out in a sticky situation?
It's probably worth talking about our cyber product actually. So we're able to monitor both the dark web and the public web to see if a customer's data has been compromised. So when a customer enrolls with our product, and normally this is embedded with an insurance product and is an added benefit to that protection. So basically they can provide us data, it might be their credit card, bank details, passport number. We will then encrypt that data, but we will also look for it on the dark and public web. So basically we will alert the customer, let them know that there has been an issue, and we also have a help desk as well, so we're able to actually help them through that process of how they can either clean the data if it's on a website that's in the public domain, or obviously go back to their bank and resolve the issue effectively and put them back to square one.
Well, there's certainly a lot of exciting things ahead. Thanks for all our interviewees, and make sure you tune into the next episode of the Fintech Show.